Houska Castle, the Gothic fortress built to seal a gateway to hell. Constructed near Prague in the 13th century, Houska Castle has housed mad scientists and perhaps even demons. Hidden by thick forestry, Houska Castle in Czechia is surrounded by a nightmarish myth and occultist legend. It was built atop of a cliff in Prague's countryside, mysteriously isolated from all trade routes. It had no source of water or fortification. Some say it wasn't built to keep evil from entering, but to prevent it from spilling out. It was built in the 13th century as a hub for the king, but Czech folklore maintains the true purpose of its construction was to seal a gaping crack in the limestone. Locals believe this was a gateway to hell, from which demonic beings emerged to feed on villagers and drag them back into the abyss, never to be seen again. Legend has it that prisoners who were facing the gallows were offered full pardons, but only if they agreed to be lowered into the bottomless hole. The first man to do so was young and healthy, and he happily accepted. Within seconds, however, he cried to be raised up. When he was pulled up from the chasm, his hair had turned white. The castle's eerie history doesn't stop there. German experiments took place within its walls during World War II. Some say the German army occupied the castle precisely to investigate whether the gateway to hell was real, as feverish occultism has consumed its higher ranks. Houska Castle is the basis for the 1981 horror novel The Keep, which was turned into a film by Michael Mann in 1983. While Houska Castle now welcomes countless tourists from around the world, the limestone cliff on which it sits has drawn people in since antiquity. Archaeological evidence shows Celtic tribes inhabited the land before the Middle Ages, and Slavic tribes migrated to the region in the 6th century. The first known structure of the site was a small wooden fort in the 9th century. Local folklore described the emergence of a crack in the cliff. It revealed a seemingly endless abyss that villagers deemed an entrance to hell. Locals were terrified of the half-human hybrids that began to crawl out of the hole at night and tear livestock apart. Fearful of turning into these demonic entities, villagers avoided the rocky entrance. They tried to block it with stones, but the abyss allegedly gobbled up anything they dropped into it, refusing to be filled. King Ottokar II of Bohemia had the Gothic structure built sometime between 1253 and 1278. Oddly, the original construction omitted stairs from the courtyard to the upper floors, and most of the structure's defences were built facing inwards. It was as if a purpose the castle wasn't to keep invaders out, but rather to keep something trapped within. Perhaps the most notable of all, the king had the gateway to hell sealed with stone plates and had a chapel built above it. The chapel was dedicated to the Archangel Michael, who led God's armies against Lucifer's fallen angels, leading some to believe the gateway truly existed, or still does. By 1639, the castle was occupied by a Swedish mercenary named Oronto. The black magic practitioner allegedly toiled nightly in his laboratory in an effort to create an elixir for eternal life. This instilled villagers with so much mortal fear that 2 local hunters assassinated him. Despite Oronto's death, locals still continue to avoid the area. Houska Castle did trade hands between various nobles and aristocrats in later centuries. However, it was renovated in the 1580s, fell into disrepair by the 1700s, and was fully restored in 1823, a century later. In the 1940s, the German army overtook the castle during their occupation of Czechoslovakia, though their reasons for doing so are unclear, as the castle lacked defences and was 30 miles away from Prague. Heinrich Himmler, who was obsessed by the occult, had sent the German army in to secure 13,000 manuscripts. Himmler allegedly feared his trove of blasphemous materials would be destroyed in the war, but with something even more sinister afoot. Locals at the time reported strange lights and horrifying sounds coming from the castle. Some say that many top German officials attended ceremonies at Houska Castle in an attempt to harness the power of hell. The castle has been open to the public since 1999. Many visitors are baffled by the counterintuitive architecture and unnerved by the fresco paintings in the chapel. The strangest of these paintings depicts a creature with the upper body of a human woman and the lower body of a horse. While it was unheard of at the time to include depictions of pagan mythology in a church, even more staggering is the fact that the centaur is using its left hand to shoot an arrow, as left-handedness was associated with the service of Satan in the Middle Ages. Historians believe the painting is a hint to creatures that lurk beneath the church, and indeed to this day visitors claim to hear screams and scratching noises from beneath the chapel floor.